Hello, welcome back to Reads of an Apple. My name is Stacy, and happy July 9th. If you're watching this video the day it goes up. Happy Speak Now Taylor's version. If you watch my weekly vlogs, I have been very excited for Speak Now. It is my origin story as a Swiftie. I was a fan of Taylor, but I'd never really considered myself a Swiftie until Speak Now. And for almost 10 years, she was one of like 3 American or English speaking singers that I followed. The rest were Asian music, specifically J-pop and K-pop. And I am just having a moment with Speak Now once again, which is I had moments with Red and I had moments with Fearless, but this feels different to me. Like, the re-recordings are a thing, and the moments I'm having are both nostalgic and also new, and also adding in like perspective. And it's still hard for me to comprehend that this is happening, that this is a thing, that I'm having a second coming of Speak Now. I mean, my Swiftie is showing for sure. I can't explain the immense pride I have of Taylor for this undertaking of re-recording her albums. This officially marks half of her albums she owns again. And there's just so much that I have to say. But that's not what this video is. That's not what it is. Today, I am creating my own book tag. This is the original video. And welcome to Speak Now, Taylor's version, the book tag. I am going to say up front, some of these, the prompts I chose for the songs might not exactly match the vibe, the overall message of a song, but I pulled like snips of lyrics to kind of play off of that, because I didn't want to make it too sad, and I wanted to make it fun, and I wanted to give enough diversity. And a lot of these questions might be questions you've seen before in other book tags. I also tried to make them slightly different as well. But if you do the book tag, let me know, tag me in it. I don't have like a final question tag everybody thing. If you want to do the tag, please do the tag. Tag me if you do it. Are you over the word tag yet? But I would love to see it. I'd love to see what other books you guys think of when you hear these songs. So it's a lot. We have a lot. We have 22 questions in songs on this album. So let's just get into it. So first off, song number 1. Arguably one of the greatest song openers ever. Mine. You Are the Best Thing That's Ever Been Mine. So this is a favorite book that you own. Now, most of these books, I am mainly a romance reader. So a lot of these books, I have romance books. But I was thinking specifically of, you know, like special editions, those type of things. I also try with all of my book tags to not mention books that I've mentioned in previous tags, because there are so many books that I love. I want to try to share the love on all of them and not just mention the same like 4 or 5 books over and over again. So this one, I went non-romance. This is a little, I think it's technically non-fiction, but I had to give it to one of the favorite things that I own, which is more than just a book, but it is the Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Making of a Slayer. This is by Nancy Holder. I ordered this the minute it dropped. I want to say it came out in like 2011, 2012, something like that. But let me show you the amazingness that is this. So, and I did say that this is what was on the back of the package when it was sealed. The back of it's just blank, but I saved the back packaging. So here's what it is. When you open it up, we've got a packet and we've got the book. I can't hold it up and show you everything, so we're going to set it down. But this is the hardback book. I mean, we've got gorgeous metallic embossing in it. We've got the back. And this is basically, it is an official guide of the making of a Slayer. And I mean, this is combining two of my favorite things. So this is basically a how-to creation of how they, hey look, Spike, of not just like the making of the Slayer, the character, but the making of the TV show as itself. And I keep this safe all together, and it is one of my most favorite things that I own. And I own a lot of Buffy books and Buffy memorabilia. I have like the Sunnydale yearbook from season 3 and things like that. But then this little packet that was in the other side is Slayer lore. And this has a lot of like really fun little kitschy things that are printed to look like original, like linen. Like this is a reproduction of an expert from the book about the Slayer's origin. And, you know, we've got I mean, if you know, you know. This is from Seeing Red. This is in a demonic language. And that's from season 6. So it's a reproduction of that. Let's see here. We've got, I mean, there's a whole bunch of little things in here. Let me see if there's something fun. Oh my gosh. We've got a sketch of the gentleman that looks like it was ripped out of a sketchbook. Like, how cool is this? We have the City Hall floor plan. I mean, we've got something that looks like it was torn out of a book. This is from that terrifying episode where Buffy gets shot by this demon, and we don't know if Buffy is real or if it's been all in her head and she's like in a mental asylum and everything that we've ever learned is fake, potentially. And so who knows if like Buffy as we've known it for the previous seasons is all just a fever dream of a girl named Buffy Summers who is mentally ill. That song, or that episode wrecked me. And, you know, it's the things that Buffy did. Here is the spell Willow performs in Willow's freaking handwriting. So yeah, there's a whole bunch. There's a lot of little pieces of paper in here. And it's just so amazing. And the fact that they call this Slayer lore is perfect. And I love that these things look like they were torn out of books, that they, I mean, this, and they all say what they are on them in the back, which some of this I do remember. Some of it I'm a little more sketchy on, but so this says, this is a reproduction, never before seen pages from the Watcher's diaries about a previously unknown Slayer named Rebecca in 1793. And then it says, scanned from a prop book that was never read on screen. So like this is tea we didn't get. So, you know, once I join a fandom, I'm in. And there's no getting me out of. I remember very distinctly my dad saying something when I would visit his house. At this point, I was living with my mom, and I was like, Buffy's on, the new episode's on, I gotta watch this. And he said something along the fact of like, in a few years, you're just gonna be over it, and you're gonna be like, oh yeah, I used to be into that. Not with Buffy. Not with Buffy. It has been a couple of years, but it's been like 2 or 3 years since I've done this. But I used to, every Christmas time, because holiday was like, with you winter break from school. I am someone who makes all of my Christmas gifts for people. And so that used to be, I would rewatch all 7 seasons of Buffy, all 5 seasons of Angel, and that would be what I would watch outside of any Christmas movies when I was like finishing up Christmas presents. So I'm sorry, Dad, but you were wrong. Buffy will always be a love of mine for the rest of my life. Although, maybe now that I'm thinking about that, maybe I'm intentionally keeping it a love of my life to prove him wrong. But maybe not. But I do actually love it. I wouldn't spend money on things like this if I didn't actually love it, So, we will move on. Song number 2, Sparks Fly. Because I see sparks fly whenever you smile. So for this, I chose a book that has great sexual tension. And I chose a recent release, and that is Sink or Swim by Maz Maddox. This is the 2nd book in her Relic series. This is Dinosaur Shifters, MM. The tension in this was so good. There's a joke about them because they get in like an actual like fist fight. And then they kind of play it off because they're trapped on this cruise ship together. They play it off like they were just getting rowdy when they were rough and tumbling, so to speak. And then they play it off like that's what they were doing when people come to be like, what is going on in here? And then when they actually go there, it's still in a similar fashion. This book is one of my favorite books and probably will be one of my favorite books of this year. It was so great and I loved it to pieces. Highly recommend it. Song number 3, Back to December. Ugh. But if we loved again, I swear I'd love you right. For this one, I chose Second Chance Romance. Give me a second chance romance. Now, I am not a big fan of second chance romance, but immediately what popped into my head is The Sweetest Thing by Jill Shalvis. This is the 2nd book in her Lucky Harbor series, and this is between Tara and Ford. And so the first 3 books in the Lucky Harbor series is 3 sisters. I think they all have different fathers. Maybe 2 of them have the same father, but their mother passes and leaves them this inn, B&B inn type thing in Lucky Harbor. And they have to kind of decide, like it's left to all 3 of them. So they have to decide if they're going to fix it up and sell it or run it or whatever. So the first book is the sisters kind of coming together in Lucky Harbor and deciding what they're going to do. Well, Tara is the oldest of the 3 sisters, and she actually lived with her mother for a time in Lucky Harbor and had a summer fling when she was, I think, 17 with Ford, and they ended up getting pregnant and giving the child up for adoption because they both knew at the ages that they were at that it wouldn't be something that, they couldn't give their daughter the life that was deserved for her. They knew that they wouldn't be able to support her the way that she should be supported as a baby and as a child. So they gave her up for adoption. But with Tara coming back into town, she is divorced from Logan, who is a NASCAR driver who has a novella, which is super cute. And it's her reconnection with Ford. And while they're kind of struggling to come to terms on what happened in the past, Mia shows up because she would like to meet her parents. And I think she is, I can't remember how old she is. She's like mid to late teens. I can't remember if is the age that they were when they gave her up for adoption, or if she's coming up to that, but she wants to meet her birth parents finally. And she kind of helps bring them together to get their AGA. But what I loved about this is that we had an adoption situation where her parents that adopted her loved her to pieces. And, you know, they never said anything bad about the birth parents, and they really raised her with all the love and care, like she was, you know, their blood child. Like, they really are her parents. And in this, we get Mia coming to terms that she can love both sets of her parents. And, you know, that's just who she gets to be. She gets to have two sets of parents who love her so deeply and want the best for her. And I just really liked that it wasn't made to be one set of parents. Like, her adoption parents ended up being horrendous to her and that kind of a situation. So it really was the sweetest thing. And it is probably one of my favorite second chance romances, which is saying a lot, because like I said, that's not a trope that it's a trope that I struggle with. So I highly recommend the Lucky Harbor series. I know people are scared of Jill Shalvis because she definitely, with her more recent series, has gone more women's fiction, except apparently, I guess, her new series that's releasing right now. She announced in her newsletter that she has gone back to more of a romance subgenre with it, but her earlier books are definitely romance. There is steam in this. I promise you, there is steam. This is the series that got me hooked on Jill Shalvis. I have read probably 80% of her backlist. Most of what I haven't gotten to is like her early Harlequin and Silhouette books. But I mean, I highly, highly recommend Jill Shalvis, especially her earlier books. I feel like they don't get enough love in Romancelandia. So I'm going to say that one. On to book number 4, song number 4. We're doing all the 4s. Speak Now. You are not the boy who should be marrying the wrong girl. And for this one, I had to throw at you a book with a wedding that doesn't happen. Because, you know, that's the point of Speak Now. And I had to give this to another recent release, which surprisingly enough, I've read like 4 or 5 in the past couple months that have had this trope, which I feel like wasn't as popular. You don't see as often, but somehow I keep picking them up. But I had to give it to Kissing My Brother's Bride by Molly McLean. I recently read this for a favorite trope vlog. I will link that up above if you'd like to check it out. This is the first book in the multi-author Kissing Game series, and in this, my favorite trope, if you did not know, is wrong sibling. And so I was anticipating this release. It dropped June 1st, and I picked it up as soon as I could, and I loved it. I gave it 5 stars. In this, we have Audrey, and she's engaged to Lincoln, and the way that she meets his brother is Lincoln is a workaholic and he's going to be late to their first date. But to convince her to stay, he sends his brother Liam to meet her. And so Liam eventually capitulates and is like, fine, I'll go to this first date for you. And ask her to, but he plans on going to tell her, my brother's a workaholic. You don't want a relationship with this guy. I suggest leaving. And instead, he's so enamored with her that he ends up having the first date, and then Lincoln shows up and takes over from there. But since that moment, they have been best friends, and he's been pining for her. There's no cheating. There is no cheating. And I love this. I love the way it went down. I feel like this trope typically works better for like historical romances because you have a lot of weddings, or you have a lot of engagements and weddings that are arranged or, you know, agreed upon in other people, or like an agreement is made when people are like, when the babies are born type of situation, or just marriages of convenience. They don't actually have feelings for each other. But I thought this one was done so superbly well. Like I said, check out my vlog if you really want to watch me gush about it more, but I'm recommending you this book. It is also on KU. Okay. We got our track 5. We have our track 5. Dear John. Now this one, I had to kind of distance myself a little bit from Dear John and the powerhouse that it was. So this prompt is one of the ones where I was like, it might not quite fit. But the lyric choice for this one is, you shoulda known. And the prompt is a book where you didn't believe in the HEA. I usually try to go for more positive ones, but I just had to go on the disillusion of a relationship, and it just really kind of not working out, and you should have known it wasn't going to work out. Which isn't 100% what the you should have known means, but we're going to use it in this way. And for me, I had to go with a novella I read earlier this year, and that is Talk Wordy to Me by Frankie Love. This is a book I gave, I think, 2 stars, and it didn't work for me at all. This is the first book in his Curvy Librarian series, and I had problems with the heroine, who's a librarian, and mother is a romance writer, and then she constantly talked about how Nicholas Sparks is her favorite romance writer. Excuse me, ma'am. Don't get me going. Don't get me going. Outside of that, I just didn't believe that they were going to make it. It didn't do it for me. Do not recommend this novella. Unless you want to hate read something, because, sometimes you want to do that, right? And I feel bad giving a, unfortunate prompt to Dear John, but you know what? I had to throw one of them on here, right? So we will just move forward. So number 6 is Mean. Someday I'll be living in a big old city. For this one, I chose a prompt for a character that stands up for themselves. And immediately what came to mind is Aurora from Craving in Slumber by M.L. Philpott. This is the second book in her Fractured Ever After series. And if you have not heard me gush about M.L. Philpott, she is a newer author to me. I recently read the first 2 books in this series. This is the second, like I said, for the Mafia Romance Readathon. I also vlogged it. And these are Mafia romance books that are fairy tale retellings. So this one is Sleeping Beauty. And Aurora has been kept in this weird convent boarding school situation for her safety from the family. Basically, since she was 6 years old or something really young. And now that she's 18 or early 20s, I can't remember exactly how old she is. I know she's graduated high school. So maybe she's in her early 20s. But, her brother has planned an arranged marriage for her. And when she shows up, she is really kind of struggling with being abandoned by her family for so long. Nobody called her. Nobody wrote to her. She had no contact with them whatsoever. Doesn't really know them at all anymore. And, she really has to kind of stand up for herself, for them to see her as who she is as a person now. And also kind of come to terms with the fact that they hurt her so very deeply, and that they expect to just kind of pull her back from this seclusion and then have her be okay with suddenly entering into an arranged marriage when, 1, she doesn't know who any of these people really are outside of she's related to them, and 2, she's been outside of the mafia lifestyle. So I loved it. I liked the first book a little bit more. I was gonna use Della, who's from the first book, The Hunt and Illusion, in this, but I had to give it to Aurora because she really does have to stand up for herself more, and not just to our hero, but to... Well, you know what? She doesn't even really have to stand up for herself, to the hero. Rose is really there for Aurora. It's more that she has to stand up to everybody else in her life. Number 7, The Story of Us, arguably my favorite Speak Now track. I mean, all of them have been my favorite at some point, but I think this one has stuck with me the longest. I still don't understand how The Story of Us is both exactly the same, but also better as a re-recording. Like, I understand production and like equipment and things have gotten better and her voice has matured, but somehow The Story of Us slaps so much more. I don't understand it. Like, I do, but I don't. And this one I chose, The End. And this is the feeling that I get when I listen to The Story of Us. And that is a book that was over way too soon. Like, sometimes I'm like, I need Story of Us to be the length of Dear John and like 6 minutes long. But I also know that it slaps so hard because it is like quick and short and we get through it. For this, I had to choose another recent release, Magic Claims by Ilona Andrews. This book was everything I could want it to be and more. This is the second book in the Kate Daniels spinoff, The Wilmington Years. This is just Kate and Daniel and all of their majesty. Kate and Curran and all of their majesty. I love them to pieces. Every time Curran called Kate his wife, I swooned so hard for that man. This was just so much fun. I loved every minute of it. They originally were going to call this a novella. It ended up being a novel. It is over 200 pages. I mean, I love Kate Daniels. I love Ilona Andrews, the husband-wife writing duo behind all of their amazing books, and I can't tout them enough. So this book was over too soon. All books I read by Ilona Andrews are over too soon, and I always want more, and this was just so much fun. Okay, book number 8, Never Grow Up, or song number 8, Never Grow Up. So take pictures in your mind of your childhood room. Now this is the one skip for me on Speak Now, but not because it's bad. It's because it's too good. I used to not be able to listen to this song. It always made me nostalgic and teary-eyed. I would let it play, but it would be one of those ones where I'm not like invested in listening to it. It'd just be on in the background. Since I lost my mother though, cannot, especially when it talks about your mother getting old and how things will change and never be the same again. I had to take a moment after I listened to the Taylor's version of the song because I just could not. I could not function as a human being for a few minutes. So it's a skip because it's too good. It's this one, it's Ronan, and it's Soon You'll Get Better, which is a whole other thing. Because my mom did not get better, but we're going to move on. Favorite book growing up. Now, I have talked a few times about favorite books that I had when I was growing up, but I had to give it to one I haven't really mentioned yet, and that is The Westing Game by Ellen Raskin. As you can tell, my copy is well loved. I have reread this book several times a year. You know, growing up, even when I moved past these smaller chapter books, I still would reread this up until high school. It's been since high school since I've reread it. I had so much fun with this. We got the mystery, we got, a coming of age, there's a romance in here. So if you know of like an adult version with more romance of The Westing Game, please let me know because I'd love to, I don't know, maybe I should reread it too and just see what I think about it now that it's been forever. But I chose The Westing Game. Okay, number 9, Enchanted. I was enchanted to meet you. For this, the prompt is an author that you added to your favorites after reading just one of their books. And for me, this was a hard choice because there's quite a few authors I've done this with, but I had to give it to Victoria Aveline. This is book 3, so this isn't the first book I read from her, but this is my favorite book of her Cleclania series. This is sci-fi romance. The first book is Choosing Theo, and I have loved everything that she has written. I love her take on sci-fi romance. I like how she takes some of those common sci-fi romance tropes and kind of flips them a little bit. And I love this world that she's created. I am a patron member of her. I love supporting her, and I highly, highly recommend the Cleclania series if you are into sci-fi romance at all. They're so great. I also highly recommend joining her Patreon if you love fan art, because she commissions so many cool fan arts, and some of them are very steamy and some of them are just normal safe for work fan art, but I love all of it, and I love the artist that she's chosen for it. But I'm super excited. The next book in this series comes out at the end of August, and I can't wait. But I had to give Victoria Aveline some more love because I feel like I don't talk about her enough. And I own all of her books in paperback, so also throwing that out there. So number 10, Better Than Revenge. There's nothing I do better than revenge. And this, we have to go with a book with a badass heroine. And immediately, also another recent read, I had to give it to Raina from Brutal Vows. This is book 4 in J.T. Geisinger's Queens and Monsters series. And Raina is a queen in her own right. She is a queen that is stuck being an aunt and, I don't know, I guess a mafia princess, but she is a queen, and her brother is the king of their family and not very smart, and she is just so strong and there for her niece, and she really is badass. She's known as the Black Widow because somehow her husband died after she was heavily abused by him, and somehow he died. And everyone just assumed she killed him, but nobody knows how, and she was never caught. And yeah, I love this. This is probably my favorite book in the series, and Raina is my favorite heroine of the series. I'll say that. Raina's my favorite heroine. 100%. Okay, on to number 11, Innocent. Who you are is not who you've been. So, a book where a character forgives another character when maybe they shouldn't have. If you know, you know. For this, I went with Bloodied Hands by Adelaide Forrest. Oh, hold that thought. I should also mention, if you want more information on Brutal Vows, this is in that same vlog that I linked earlier of reading books with my favorite trope. Now, back to Bloody Hands. This I read during the Mafia Romance Readathon, so that is also in that same vlog I linked earlier. So, you know, as you can tell, these are all recent reads for me, for the most part. This one is Ivory and Mateo. This is the first book in Adelaide Forrest's Belandi Crime Syndicate series. And Mateo does some, we'll call it bonkers to be nice, things. And I really wanted Ivory to stand up for herself more and really kind of express to him that how he was like hurting her. And he never really apologized. And I get that's his thing, and that was kind of how he was set up, and this book is set up for him to be that crazy bonkers person. But I really needed some sort of apology, understanding, anything really from his end on how exactly how he treated her really just was not okay, no matter how obsessive you get. So I had to go with that one. Number 12, Haunted. Come on, don't leave me like this. So, this one I had to make the most recent book that gave you a hangover. And this is where I kind of break my rules a little bit and talk about a book that I've talked about in previous ones. But, you know, the prompt is what it is. I had to do what the prompt says. The most recent book that gave you a hangover, and that would be Grim and Barrett. I literally could not pick up a book for like over a week after reading this. This is by Juliet Cross. This is book 6, the final book in her Stay a Spell series. And this is Clara and Henry, who I've been waiting for since, let's be honest, book 1. But this book really sent me into a tailspin, and I tried reading other books and nothing would fit. And it took a while for me to kind of come out of my hangover, for sure. So Grim and Barrett is book hangover of the year so far. 13, Last Kiss. And if you know, you know, this is July 9th. I wanted originally to have this book tag to go out on the release of Speak Now, July 7th. But I was like, I don't know what the vault tracks are going to be, and I want to include the vault tracks in this. And then I was looking, and usually I post videos Thursdays and Sundays. And what was Sunday? July 9th. And I was like, it's meant to be. It's meant to be. So here we are, Last Kiss, which is another song that somehow is even better than Perfect Now. And the new bass drum resonance sounding that's in the back hits me to my soul, and I don't know what happened. But that could also be because I'm a percussion girly. So, and by that I mean I am a percussionist. I mean, I don't really consider myself one anymore, but I played percussion and I did drum corps and I was in the pit, and that's what I did in marching bands. So we'll leave it at there. Last Kiss. I never imagined we'd end like this. So a book that ended a series either in an amazing way or in a not so amazing way. So you can choose whatever option you want to go with. For me, I went with Devil in Disguise by Lisa Kleypas. This is book 7 in her Ravenel series. I do kind of feel like this isn't technically a Ravenels book. This is kind of like a spin-off of the Ravenels. It does say on it, it's the Ravenels meet the Wallflowers, but the Ravenels are just side characters in this. This is a Wallflower book. Let's be honest. This is 2nd gen Wallflower. But I loved it. This was magic. It was one of the swooniest books I read the year it came out. 2021, 2022. I don't remember when this book came out. I remember I was living at my previous place on Lake Street, but I don't remember the year because those COVID years kind of all blend together. But anyway, this is also kind of bittersweet because since this book came out, Lisa Kleypas has been silent. And I'm like, are we going to get another book from Lisa? Are we gonna get more from her? Where is she? Is she okay? I don't like that she's been so silent. And I want more from her. She's one of my favorites. She's one of the top tier historical romance authors. So this is amazing, but it also is slightly not amazing because what's next? And there was no hint at the end of this of what's coming next. There's no coming soon or anything. So can we get a wellness check on Lisa Kleypas, please? I just want to know that she's even if she's just out living her best life and enjoying, having worked as a historical romance author for however many years of her life that she's been doing this since the 90s or something crazy. Can we just know that Lisa Kleypas, our historical romance treasure, is doing well? Please. And cheese agrees. Okay, so our original album closer, number 14, Long Live. I had the time of my life fighting dragons with you. The prompt for this one is an author you would fight for. And I didn't think about this before, but I should have grabbed one of the author's Dragon Book series. But I wasn't thinking that far ahead. But I This was a hard choice for me, but I had to give it to my favorite. We've already mentioned her once this video, Juliet Cross. But I pulled one of her Vampire Blood books. This is the third book in that series, White Lily, because I feel like this series doesn't get enough love. But now that I'm thinking about it, I should have grabbed one of the Dragon of Vale books because the lyrics have dragons in it, but I wasn't thinking ahead. And this is the original cover. The new ones have really gorgeous lilies. I do own both versions. I have almost 2 copies of all of Stay a Spell because I have my signed copies and my non-signed copies. But anyway, Juliet Cross is probably the #1 author that I would go into battle for. I would take the mat. I would pick up arms, whatever verbiage you would like to use. It's Juliet Cross for me. She is such a lovely human. I love her to pieces. And I wish her and her family all of the best and all of the good things. She's also a nerd and connects with like my nerdy geeky self, and her family are also big nerds, you know, and they love Lord of the Rings, and I know one of her sons plays Dungeons and Dragons and they're into board games, and I'm just like, I feel like we are on the same nerddom level, and the fact that she brings some of that into her books, I also absolutely adore, because I feel like I'm seen in those books. We will move on. So we have our Speak Now Deluxe Edition tracks. Don't get me on the fact that we still don't have a haunted acoustic version, Taylor's version. But first off, we have ours. People Throw Rocks at Things That Shine. And this is a book that you loved that others didn't. So for figuring out what book I wanted to do for this, what I did is I went to Goodreads and I went to all of the books I had marked as read, and then I organized them by the average rating on Goodreads and went smallest to biggest. So I went through the list and I was just kind of looked at the first couple books that I either gave 4 or 5 stars that didn't match what else was happening. And the first one I came across was Broken Resolutions. This is by Olivia Dade. I feel like this is books that she released before she kind of did spoiler alert and got really popular on Bookstagram. This is the first book in her Love Struck Librarian series. This is actually the first series I ever read from her. And I read this back 2019, 2020 maybe. It's been a while since I've read this. But this is... When I looked, it was at 2.97 on Goodreads, and I gave this 4 stars. I think if I were to rate this now, I would give it 4.5 stars, but it was just super cute. The entire series is based off of, like, each one of the main characters in them is a librarian in the system. In this one, it's kind of a holiday novella as well, set around, like, New Year's, and we have our heroine is Penny, and she's a librarian, and you know, it's the new year, and so she's gonna do that thing where I'm gonna stop dating boys for a year and just kind of work on myself. And you know what happens? What typically happens? She comes across someone who starts coming into the library, and she's very attracted to them. And he actually ends up being Jack, a very famous author that's kind of from their part of the state. And she doesn't realize it's him as first, and they get like snowed in or stuck or locked in the library all night together. And I loved it. I gave it 4 stars. I kind of want to go back and reread. I think I still have the final book in this series to read, because I think when I read these, my library didn't have the final book, or it wasn't out yet or something. But I really enjoyed this series. I thought it was great fun. And if you enjoy, I haven't read all of Olivia Dade's newer books, like the spoiler alerts. I haven't read those yet because they just got so hyped that I kind of took a step back from them. But I really enjoyed this series. Then we have Superman to Save the World or Go to Work. It's the same thing to me. And for this one, I chose the prompt, a blue-collar hero that makes you swoon. And immediately, Evan Bailey came to my mind. This is from Claire Kingsley's Bailey Brothers series. This is book 3, Unraveling Him. Evan is a mechanic This is Fiona. She is also like a female mechanic, but she works the front office at the car shop that her dad owns. Evan specifically focuses on like restorations of cars. And as someone who works in a similar industry, I am a front office person at a small engine repair shop. So we don't do cars, we do like lawnmowers and lawn equipment. There were a lot of things that I could connect with, and I would definitely take Evan. I don't really do book boyfriend lists or favorite heroes or heroine lists. That's just something that I just have never really gotten into. But if I were to have a book boyfriend list, Evan would definitely be pretty close to the top of it. I love this book. I love this series. We finally are getting teasers about the spin-off series for the Haven series, for the Haven brothers, of which Claire kind of announced in her recent newsletter that there are going to be 6. And book 1 is not going to be Luke's book. She didn't say who it's going to be, but it's not Luke. We know that. But I love Claire Kingsley. I love the Bailey's Brothers series. I love her Miles family series. And I can't wait for the Haven brothers as well. Okay, that's it for our normal tracks. We are on to our vault tracks. We have 6 songs left. So, number 17, Electric Touch, featuring Fall Out Boy, who as of this moment, filming this, is my favorite vault track song. It also kind of has kicked me back into listening to Fall Out Boy's new album that they released several months ago. When I'm filming this, Fall Out Boy is going to be performing in Colorado tomorrow. So the day that this goes up. And then Taylor Swift is having her Eras tour in Denver the following weekend. And also Paramore's in town. I'm just like, all of these rock people that I grew up with when I was in my rock girly phase are coming back, and I'm loving it. But anyway, so for Electric Touch, got a feeling that your electric touch could fill this ghost town up with life. I chose the prompt, a book that makes you feel better or helped you kind of deal with things in life, which doesn't quite necessarily fit the overall feel of the song, but it kind of works with, oh my God, a grasshopper just tried to like attack me through the window, and now he's dingling on my window. I hate grasshoppers. I know they don't attack me, but I feel like they attack me. Anytime I go anywhere with grasshoppers, they tend to always jump at me. It's a thing. And it's like stressing me out that he's right there. But anyway, I kind of pulled this one from the lyrics of this, not necessarily the overall feel of the song. I've listened to this song, I don't know how many times since it dropped, 10 o'clock my time Thursday night, but I have probably listened to this song the most, and it wouldn't surprise me if this makes its way into my Spotify Wrapped thing that happens in October. Also, Patrick's ad-libs in the second chorus and in the bridge, and his backing vocals give me life. But a book that kind of made you feel better or helped you deal with things in life. I have to give it to A Court of Silver Flames by Sarah J. Maas. This is Nesta's book. Nesta deals with a lot of issues, and she deals with depression and a not good relationship with her father, and this book made me cry in so many different ways. We also kind of deal with another thing that I don't hear talked about quite as much, but that also kind of really spoke to me. It's just kind of feeling like you're an outsider to your own family, and seeing your family kind of, you know, finding their own people and making their own found families, and being like, kind of feeling left out and being like, I'm your actual family. I'm right here wanting a relationship. And then kind of finding your own found family away from your family because you don't feel like you fit in with your family. And that part really, really spoke to me, and I'm trying not to cry. I plan on rereading this book soon when all parts of the graphic audio are out, and I know it's just gonna wreck me once again, but this time with sound effects and multi voice actors. So there's that. But I had to give it to A Court of Silver Flames because it really kind of helped me realize some things about myself and about how I handle issues. And I'm sorry that the lighting's getting suddenly dark, but we have a thunderstorm that is suddenly popping up outside. So yay rain. I love the rain. That's another thing Taylor Swift and I have in common, is we are both rain girlies. We're also both born in 1989, but I am older than her. We will move on. Number 18, When Emma Falls in Love. Because she's the kind of book that you can't put down. First line in the chorus. So this is a book that made you a recent read, specifically a recent read that you couldn't put down. For me, that was, we're bringing back Alona Andrews, Sweep of the Heart. This is book 5, the most recent book in the Innkeeper Chronicles. I read this in practically one sitting, one day. It's a big boy. It's 450-ish pages, and I couldn't put it down. It was just so good, and I'm not surprised it's Alona Andrews, but I could not put this book down. I could not stop reading it. I had to know what was going to happen next. And then, the last 50 pages completely broke me once again because it's Alona Andrews, and who knows when we'll get the next book. So they've already said that they're not, typically with the Innkeeper Chronicles, they do this in like a serialized format on their blog, and then they compile it, make some changes, and then release it as a full book. But they said that since this released in December, they're not planning on doing an Innkeeper's serial blog this summer. So it might not be till next year before we get more Innkeeper's content. But they have also said that they're writing books. So they haven't said what, but I will take whatever they write. Okay, number 19, our music video song, I Can See You. And I Could See You being my addiction. A book that made you want to binge a series or an author. So either read their series or just read all of their books. And a bonus question with this. Did you? For me, I had to give it to Alessa Thorne. She's very bingeable to me. And I, of course, had to give it to Trash and Treasure, which is book 1 in her Iron One series. As for did I binge this? I immediately picked up book 2. But then I went, I need to savor these. I need to make them last. And I need to space them out. So since I read the first 2 books of these, I try to wait about a month before I pick up the next Alessa Thorne, because I could go through her backlist very quickly, and I like having her there as like a safeguard and saving them for a rainy day when I really, really want an Alessa Thorne book. I have loved every single book I've ever read from her. She also is a very geeky, nerdy person. She's super into Assassin's Creed, so if you follow her on Instagram, I feel like 50% of her stories are Assassin's Creed based, which is fine. I am also an Assassin's Creed fan. But I just love her books. This is Trash and Treasure, the first book in the Ironwood series, which is a spinoff of the Wrath of the Fae series. So this is all part of the Fae universe. There's a spinoff after this. There's a spinoff being planned off of this book for the Hero Reeves magical family for the Great Drakes. And I love Alessa Thorne, and I feel like she's another underrated KU author that I wish more people would read because her books are amazing. Number 20, Castles Crumbling, featuring Hayley Williams of Paramore. And you don't want to know me, I will just let you down. The song, guys, this song. But a book that made you cry or feel sad. For me, that's every book. I cry very, very easily, as you've probably seen multiple times during this short video. Well, not so short video. We're going on almost an hour at this point. But the one that really, really kind of made me feel sad that I read recently was Down to a Science by Haley Cass. This is a sapphic romance. This is in a multi-author series that's called the I Heart Sapphic Pride Collection. One of the heroines in this, Mia, is a firefighter, and near the end of the book, there's a situation where she is saving someone that is horrendous and gut-wrenching, and I had to take a breather at it because it was just so... It got me in my feels really deeply, and it was very, very sad, and I wasn't expecting it to get that sad suddenly, but warning for parental death, but not of either of our main characters. It's kind of a side thing that happens, so just wanted to throw that out there. But this is the book that made me really cry most recently. On to number 21, Foolish One, which is probably my second favorite folk song right now. Stop checking your mailbox for confessions of love. Name one of your favorite epistolary romances. Now, for this one, I was like, nope, I can't talk about it again. I can't talk it again. Technically, my favorite epistolary romance, my favorite Lisa Kleypas romance, one of my top 3 historical romances of all time is Love in the Afternoon, which is an epistolary romance. But I've talked about it so much, that's all I'm going to say. I'm not going to hold it up. It's still on my shelves because I was like, don't pick it up. I'm going to give it 2. One is Scott Ties a Knot by Tessa Dare. This is the 3rd book in her Castle Ever After series. I thought I owned this, but apparently I got it from the library when I read it. But this one is a different an epistolary romance where it's just the heroine writing letters. So in this book, our heroine, Madeline, is a wallflower, and she doesn't really want to have to go through the whole courting situation, so she makes up the secret beau, Captain Mackenzie, who's fighting in the war. And so she writes letters to Captain Mackenzie, and then at one point she kind of decides that he's gonna die and she's gonna be the grieving, not widow, but just somebody who's in grieving for this great love that's been lost. And then she can kind of use it of getting out of kind of being forced to marry. And little does she know that when she was sending these letters, Captain Logan Mackenzie was a real person. She just did Captain Mackenzie as a random name. But Logan Mackenzie was a real person and was receiving those letters because he did actually exist. And so when he comes to town, he finds out that she has somehow inherited, or somehow he needs to claim her as his wife. And so he shows up and he's just like, "Hi, honey, I'm home." And so they really kind of have to meet each other. And then I loved it. It's my favorite Tessa Dare, hands down. I haven't read her Spindle Cove series, I think is what it's called, but this is my favorite Tessa Dare. All right, on to the final one, number 22, Timeless. We'll have a cardboard box of photos of the life we've made. Now for this one, I wanted something a little bit different, going off of the photos thing, and that is a favorite fan art for a book or series that you own or would like to own. And I had to give this to one of this posters. I'm actually planning on getting this reframed, so I don't have it in a frame right now, but this is Lord of the Rings or Hobbit, and it is a really gorgeous watercolor artwork. This came from Cal L. I'll link her down below. I don't think you can buy it. This came in one of her fandom subscription box when she did a Lord of the Rings one, but it is useless to meet revenge with revenge. It will heal nothing. And I can't wait to get this framed and up on my walls. I love her artwork in this watercolor style, and I had to give it to this. I have some gorgeous fan art for romance books, but this is my favorite bookish art that I own. So I had to. I just had to. Plus it's Lord of the Rings, you know? We started with Buffy, who wasn't romance. We talked about a lot of romance, and we ended on Lord of the Rings. This is like my life, pretty much, in books. And we talked about Taylor Swift. So you know what? It is what it is. So that's it. That's the 22 questions, the 22 prompts, the 22 songs of Speak Now, Taylor's version. Now you have Speak Now, Stacy's version, the book tag. So thank you so much for watching. If you do this tag, please let me know. I would love to watch your video. If you'd like to leave me a comment down below, of course, leave me something purple, maybe purple hearts like my earrings, or just something purple. I'd take anything purple. And if you're also a Swiftie or a Taylor Swift fan or have listened to the album, let me know what your favorite re-recording was or your favorite vault track was. I definitely know that a lot of people are loving I Can See You Right Now. We did get the music video for that, but otherwise, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you all soon with another video.